Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
Nothing says welcome home like a hidden body in the basement. It's Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, featuring former prosecutor and defense attorney Eric Faddis.
She was known as the Black Swan. Ashley Benefield is her name. She's accused of murdering her husband, Doug, after a custody dispute, as they were kind of getting back together, kind of not getting back together, kind of getting back together. It depends who you talk to on that day. But in the end, Doug lost his life in a fit of self-defense, as Ashley has claimed. But the jury did not see it the same way. They saw it as manslaughter. 20 years is what she'll be receiving behind bars. Joining to discuss, Eric Faddis, defense attorney, former prosecutor. We watched this one when it was in court, and now here we are to sentencing. What's your reaction to the actual sentence that she got?
Yeah, I not a huge surprise to me. Like you said, she wasn't convicted of like first degree murder, which is a much more serious charge. She's convicted of something lesser, manslaughter. And so that warrants a lesser sentence. Now, 20 years is still a pretty darn heavy sentence, but even for manslaughter. But considering everything that happened, you have a person who lost their life. She has 10 years probation after the manslaughter, so she will have a life after her incarceration. I think on the balance, the sentence makes sense.
20 years. Why do you think the judge leaned heavy on this for her specifically?
It's a little hard to say. Different judges take into consideration different things, and different things irk them. Sometimes when a person testifies in their own defense and they lose, the judge concludes, oh, this person must have been lying, or at least in some way, because the jury didn't accept her testimony. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, what you did, defendant, is you got up on that stand trying to deceive this jury. And for that, I'm going to give you additional punishment. I can't help but wonder if that was going through the judge's mind.
How important are tears in a trial? I talked to a psychologist about this earlier, and we were just kind of saying, yeah, there's moments in life where you can be very upset and you don't cry because maybe you're all cried out, or maybe you've hashed these things over in your mind 1,000 times. Yes, it's devastating, but on-demand crying may not always be, what's happening. And we didn't see tears from her. One of the tactics I know that the prosecution used, I saw it, they talked about it in the Dateline interview recently, was Ashley was on the stand being interviewed. They were playing some video. Lights were down. She sounded as if she was very much in tears and crying. They surprisingly turned the lights up very quickly. And no tears, nothing whatsoever. Obviously, it plays well to a jury, but does everybody cry on the stand if they're innocent,
There is a total spectrum of human emotion and a total spectrum of exhibiting human emotion. And so, we all have an expectation as to how a person might act on the stand, but that expectation doesn't always square with reality. It doesn't always square with the witness's personality and their background, their experience, how they present. That being said, these folks have to be careful about doing these media interviews. We're seeing it come up in the Karen Reed case as well, how it's coming back to bite them. And that has been happening more often than it's been giving them benefits, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with what you're going to be saying out there. And I think the interesting thing with this case is it's the idea of one person's truth versus the truth. She, on the stand, I think, swayed a lot of people. I think I was even swayed for about a day there okay, I mean, I believe she was abused. I don't think that's a question. I think that did happen. But did she need to react in the way that she did? Did she continue to make the situation more dangerous than it needed to be by involving Doug in ways that weren't needed to be there? I think there's a lot of people that look at this case and go, did she manipulatively drag him in there for the purpose of killing him? Or to have some sort of eruption, maybe not murder, but just something where she could walk away to the court saying, look, see, this is why he can't be with me. I think that was a big question in a lot of jurors' minds.
Oh, totally. And also, as you know, Tony, they had a pretty heated custody dispute going on immediately before. And so could a person take measures to try to gain leverage in a custody dispute in this fashion? Surely they could. And, on top of that, I remember going into law, I thought things were going to be black and white, and there's a good guy and a bad guy. And that's just not how these things always play out. There is wrongdoing on both sides, and sometimes there's righteousness on both sides, and it's for the jury to sort it out.
And then you have the daughter, of course, of him as well, who has testified in court. And, it's a heartbreaking one because you look at it going, oh, my gosh, this young woman who adored her father, he's gone. But then we also learn more about Doug, and we learn he's maybe not the nicest person in the world. But to a daughter, if he's treated her well, that doesn't really matter to her. All around a world that is blown up for especially the child of Doug and Ashley. Mom's not going to be there for 20 years. Dad's gone. With what we know about Ashley and Doug, I'm trying to find the silver lining here. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is not a horrible thing that this child is not going to be raised by Ashley Benefield. If we're talking about someone who was fairly manipulative, are we going to see a cycle repeat there? If Doug was alive, that's probably not a great person to raise the child either, quite honestly. Maybe the silver lining here is the child will get appropriate upbringing from non-manipulative parents. One can hope.
That's certainly the hope. But sometimes the reality of that system is harsher. As you know, hopefully she'll go into the care of some loving extended family member, but not always. Sometimes that just doesn't work out. And these kids end up in sort of a foster care system or something like that. And that's another thing. Going into the law, I thought, there are these wins, there are these glorious victories, and everybody, the right thing happens, but that's not always the reality of the outcome. Sometimes it's a nobody wins situation.
Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You're neck deep in a dark, twisted tale, and just as the tension peaks, bam, a commercial about some miracle diet pill breaks the spell. It's like finding a fly in your soup after the first bite. But here's the fix. True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. You get to enjoy your crime stories without the junk. Ad-free episodes, extended interviews that go beyond the surface, and early access to all the gruesome details. It's like swapping out a can of cheap beer for a glass of fine whiskey. So search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and keep the darkness flowing uninterrupted.